one course. It was $99. But I said, you know what? I want more. So I remember calling into the office. I was on the mentorship calls every single week. Called into the office. He just started doing one-on-one consultations. Now I remember the consultation was $1,500. Now a lot of people may say, man, that's a lot of money. But what it compared to what? See, we have to stop comparing things and saying things are expensive. Write this word down. Investment. It was an investment. So we're going to invest in things that give us zero return on our investment or on our money. Anybody here ever been on a bad date? What was that investment like? So we make bad investments all the time. But unfortunately, when it comes to building wealth, we don't want to make that investment. It's too expensive. And so I remember I paid $1,500 and the call was 10 minutes. And see, that's another thing we have to stop doing. We have to stop putting a time limit on what the dollar is worth. Because it was the value I got out of that 10 minutes. I didn't need to sit there and tell him how great he was and all this other stuff, because he already know that. I just wanted to get on the phone and say, okay, how can I be in position? What do I have to do to get myself in position? So after that game plan call, signed up for one-on-one coaching, and I'll tell you that was the best investment I ever made. But guess what? I didn't even have the $1,500. Where do you guys think I got it from? Credit card. Again, the power of credit. See, we look at credit more from a consumer standpoint. We have to stop looking at credit from a consumer standpoint. Because, see, we've been told that credit is bad. How many people heard that? Big Mama used to say, don't get those credit cards. I guarantee you, at bingo, that's what she's sliding, her credit card. Buying those dabbers. Whatever they use now. And so, I understood very early the power of credit. But I learned this back in 2003. I had a mentor of mine. He said, Will, eventually, credit is going to become the new dollar. Didn't know what he meant by that. But when I moved to Las Vegas, I quickly found out. I couldn't rent an apartment without putting 3 times the deposit down. Anybody ever been there before? I was trying to buy a vehicle. Needed a cosigner. Here I am, 26 years old, calling myself cool, but I need a cosigner. And so they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting what? And I got tired of going through that. So from that standpoint, that's when it dawned on me, man, credit is the new dollar. I need to get my credit fixed. How many people know employers pull your credit? How many people know that insurance companies pull your credit? Our credit is used pretty much for everything. And then how many business owners and entrepreneurs we have in here? Your credit is the lifeline to your business. Would you guys agree? You can't do anything without credit nowadays. So from that point, this was around 2005, I said, you know what? I need to focus on getting my credit right. Because everything that I was attempting to do in life was tied to what?
Credit.
My credit. This is why credit is so important. And so from that standpoint, I went out, started just researching everything I can about credit. Because this was the stuff that they weren't telling us about. See, I don't know about you guys' house, but I didn't grow up in a house where we talked about credit and money and finances or anything like that. But then I also thought about this, and I want you guys to help me with this. Why is it that talking about money, credit, and finances is a taboo in our communities, in the house? But we need to start the conversation. And so it needs to start with us. So how many people know you're not just here for yourself? Who are we here for? Our families, our loved ones. A legacy. That's what it's about. But it starts today. See, they said where you are today is a direct reflection of the decisions you made 3 to 5 years ago. So if you don't like your situation today, think about the decisions you made previously. But if you want your next 3 to 5 years to change, when do you have to make a decision to make a change? Today. So what I want you guys to do is give yourself a round of applause for making a decision to be here today. On a Saturday, that applause is whack. This is not the Grammys or the Oscars. All right, come on, give yourself a real round of applause. That was still kind of suspect, but I'll let y'all slide. All right. So, today I'm going to give you guys some fuel. Who's ready? Y'all ready?
Yes.
I'm going to give y'all some gas. Not the ones you get from beans. But some real gas, some fuel. All right? So the GAS, it stands for, I'm gonna give you guys some guidance. Anytime you're trying to get somewhere, you need a roadmap, you need a blueprint, you need some guidance. We're gonna give that to you. I'm gonna give you some of the credit principles that they're not teaching us. I promise you. If you learn as much as you can about credit and understand how to maneuver credit, how to use it, how to leverage it, you will always be able to get access to money. Always. Because guess what? Even if you directly don't go and get access to the capital, how many people know what a credit partner is? You can become a credit partner. And most of us have probably already been credit partners. We didn't know it. Anybody, parents put something in their name? You was your parents' credit partner. And so, we're going to give you guys the guidance. Next, the A, we're going to give you access. Write that down, access. We're going to give you access to our resources, to our lenders, to our information. How many people have heard that information changes every 18 months? Information, write that down. Information changes every 18 months. But see, unfortunately, a lot of us are still operating off old information. We'll go read something or watch something on the internet that's 12 years old and come and try to apply those same principles. Doesn't work like that. See, the difference that separates the successful from the unsuccessful or the wealthy from the unwealthy is information. It's not that they're luckier. It's not that they are more privileged or more good looking. It's the information that separates us. What did we just say is one of the pathways to getting access to wealth is what? Credit. But we haven't been taught about it, have we? So it's a lack of what? Knowledge, information. We need the information. This is why we have this academy. This is why we go onto the corners. This is why we, host different events and do all of this thing, because we want you guys to get the information. All right, and then S stands for support. We want to be able to support you. Now, when it comes to the support, understand, that doesn't mean we're going to hold your hand and do everything for you. See, we give you access to the information, and then who has to put in the work? Who has to put in the work?
We do.
See, the reason that's important is because we'll have people that'll sign up with us and say, oh, you didn't tell me to do this. Well, you have to put in the work. Anybody ever had a trainer, a personal trainer? Can the personal trainer do the push-ups for you and you get the muscles? So why do people sign up for courses and classes and get upset when it doesn't work? That's because who didn't work? Who didn't? Sometimes they didn't do the work. But we'll give you all the support you need. All right, who's ready?
We're ready.
Who's ready?
We're ready.
If y'all haven't figured out, this is interactive. All right? So the first thing we're going to talk about is personal credit. How many people have pulled their credit in the last 6 months? Okay, good stuff. Now, in relations to credit, I want people to understand it's not about the credit score, it's the credit profile. Write that down. It's the credit profile. The reason it's important to understand that is because the credit score, it's a little bit kind of deceiving. And the reason that is because let's say you have one person, they have a 750 credit score. But they have what's called a thin credit file. I want everybody to write that down. A thin credit file. Or type it in your phone. Now, a thin file will consist of somebody that has a 750 credit score, but the only thing they have reporting is a $300 credit card. That person will probably have a 700 credit score. Doesn't mean they can go out and get money from a bank. Doesn't mean they can go get money from a bank. No. Doesn't mean they can go buy a home. Doesn't mean they can go buy a vehicle right away. Not at all. Because did you know you can have a 750 credit score? Let's say you just started building credit. You have a $300 credit card. You can go and buy a vehicle and they still may ask for a cosigner. How many people knew that? That's because you haven't established credit history. Again, this is why we got to understand the power of the credit profile. And I'm going to tell you guys what makes up the credit profile. Now, on the flip side of this, take the same person, the same $300 credit card, and they max out the credit card. Okay? They max out the card, and now they have a 500 credit score. Does it mean that their credit is horrible? No, not at all. It just means that the information in the profile is hurting the score, because 30% of your credit score is made up by credit utilization. So if all they have is a $300 credit card and they use the entire $300, what's their credit utilization? 100%. What just happened to their score? Drastically. 100 points overnight. But 60% of people who have credit issues, this is their number one problem. It's not that their credit is bad, but this is why it's important to know this information, because would you guys believe I've seen people file bankruptcy over credit utilization issues? Bankruptcy. I've seen people file bankruptcy for a late payment. So this is why we need to have access to the what? Because these bankruptcy attorneys, no disrespect to anyone who may be one, but they will file it. Because guess what? That's how they get paid. So this is why we need to have access to this information. So I'm going to show you guys what makes up the credit profile. You guys still with me?
Yeah.
All right. Now, when it comes to pulling your credit reports, I want people to understand a couple different things. Yes, you can go to annualcreditreport.com. How many people say, hey, pull your credit once a year, go to annualcreditreport.com. Now, that's better than nothing. The only downfall about that is how often can you pull that report per year? Once a year. So let's say you pull the report in January. All right. How many people have heard of the different data breaches that have been taking place? The IRS had a data breach last year. That's how bad it's getting. So imagine there was a data breach. Someone stole your identity in March. You go and try to close on a home. You pull your credit in, let's just say September, and your credit is ruined. Would you have ever found out? No, because you only pulled your credit when? So this is why I tell people we want to have access to a credit monitoring service. Yes, it is a cost to it. Now, some people say Credit Karma, and it's better than nothing. But a couple reasons why we particularly don't say, we don't recommend that that's your only source. One, it does not let you see Experian. How many people know Experian is the most used credit bureau by banks? You can have your Equifax and TransUnion can be a 700 and Experian be a 5. So this is why we want to have access to all three. Secondly, their information is accurate. Credit Karma is really just for the alerts, so you'll know if something hits your report right away. So we always recommend that you get a paid one that you invest in. And there's a couple different companies. You can go to Experian.com, you can go to Credit Check Total, you can go to Identity IQ. It doesn't matter. All of them will be an investment. And when people come to me and say, hey, how much does it cost? I'm like, it's about $29 a month. That's a lot. I say, compared to what? How much is your cable or DirecTV bill? Last time I checked, you can't see what your credit score looked like by watching Basketball Wives. But this is what we invest our money in. So if we understand that getting access to wealth starts with our credit, we need to invest in making sure we can view our what? We need to be able to access it, because we need to know what's going on at all times. Yes?
What's that third one?
Identity IQ. Yes. And you can pick any one of them. All of them pretty much the same. Say that again? Oh, Credit Check Total. Sorry about that. So once you pull your credit report, it's going to give you a synopsis and give you a breakdown of everything that's in your credit profile. Okay? Now, did you know that credit bureaus authenticate you based upon your address? Write this down. It's really important to understand this. Credit bureaus authenticate you based upon your address. The reason it's important to understand that, one of the top reasons a lot of bank applications sometimes get denied, I'm going to give you guys this tip, is because they can't validate your address. So when you pull your credit report, make sure that your current address is updated on that credit bureau, on all three. And if it has not, I'm going to tell you guys what you have to do to change that address. You want to contact that bureau and send them a copy of your ID, your Social Security card. If you don't have your Social Security card, you can use a W-2 or the 1040, the first page on your tax return, and then send them proof of address. with your current mailing address. Proof of address. Good morning. You guys give them a round of applause for coming in. Y'all get some of the wackest. We're going to have a whole class on energy. Okay. So, speaking of energy, let me ask you guys a question. How come we get more excited for building other people's dreams as opposed to our own?
Fear.
What's fear? What's fear?
False evidence of fear to be real.
It's fake.
Yeah.
What are we scared of? I'm scared of being broke. That's what I'm scared of. We'll go to somebody's concert and scream until we lose our voice. But when we come and talk about learning how to get some money or how to build generational wealth and a legacy, we'll let Hov walk out here. Lil Weezy. Or whoever popular these days, I don't know. So we need to have that same energy when it comes to building wealth and getting access to what? Getting access to what? Information. We need to get excited for ourselves. How many people excited? One person. like I'm for real, y'all. Like we have to almost be so excited that people think we crazy. Because if you're not excited for yourself, who is?
That's right.
Think about it. How many times have people came up to you and just started clapping, Jeff, man, good job. We don't do that for each other. So if we're not excited for ourselves, who gonna be excited for us? They say energy is contagious. And so have you ever been around somebody and they was just negative, and next thing you know, you're like, damn. Like, I need to reevaluate my life. They energy gonna transfer to you. So when you guys are giving these half applauses, what kind of energy you think I'm gonna bring back? I'm going back to Vegas. It's cold out here.
We're attentive.
Huh?
We're attentive.
No, I feel that, but I want you guys to be excited. We're getting access to information that's changing lives. So I'm gonna give y'all one more chance.
Come on, bro, let's go!
That was great. I'm about to shed a tear. That was really good. So when you're changing the information on the credit report and updating the addresses, this is what you want to send them. Copy of your ID, copy of your Social Security card, and if you don't have the Social Security card, you can send them a W-2, the first page of the 1040, and 2 pieces of mail with your current address. You want to update that and have them delete all the old addresses on the report. It's another strategy I'm about to give you. So, what did we say that the credit bureaus use to authenticate you? So, did you know a lot of times the debt tied to your credit report is tied to the what? Address. So, if you delete the old addresses and you try to dispute an old account, typically and statistically, it increases the odds of them deleting that negative account. So y'all got that one for the money. Now y'all excited. Yes.
So, should I remove an address that I previously lived at?
If it's old, absolutely.
Okay.
You don't live there no more. Unless you still own the property, and I'll still remove it.
Okay, can you just repeat the questions when they ask?
Yes, we'll do.
Okay.
So the king asked, should he remove the old addresses that he previously lived at? Yes. You always want to remove the old addresses. I've seen some credit reports, 15 addresses. You should have saw my old credit report. I think it was like 7 pages of addresses. I bounced around so much. But understanding, you move the addresses, you have a higher chance of getting that debt removed. So y'all just learned something today, right? New what?
Yeah, new
Information. This is the stuff they don't tell us. This is the stuff they do not tell us. They want to box us out.
That's right.
Imagine if we learned about credit in middle school, where you would be today. They don't want us to know this. Instead, they want you to learn how to dissect a fraud. I've yet to dissect a fraud in my adult life. Now, I still don't know how to slice chicken properly. I don't know how to dissect a fraud. So understand it. We got to have the information. So you remove the old addresses. Another thing we want to update, date of birth. Now, usually our date of birth shows on a credit report, it just shows the year you were born. Sometimes that information is inaccurate. The reason that is because when we fill out a credit application or any type of application, it goes through an underwriting process and goes to what's called an underwriter. If that underwriter miskeys some information, that's what's going to show up on a credit report. The reason it's important to know that, when you go and apply for a credit card application or applying for an apartment or something of that nature, and there's a conflict of information and the date of a birth is wrong, guess what sometimes will happen with that application? It get denied or flagged. This is why we always need to look at our credit reports, because this type of stuff is what causes delays in applications or approvals or whatever. So we always want to update that information. So typically you go pull your report, that's the first two pieces of information you're going to see, and then also your name. Anybody ever looked at their credit report and their name was spelled wrong? Happens all the time. All the time. So you always want to get that type of information updated. All right, you guys still with me?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So now we're going to go into what the credit profile needs to look like. So the first thing, we understand it's not about the score, it's about the what?
Credit profile.
It's about the profile. So what makes up the credit profile? First thing, 35% of your score is based on payment history. That's extremely important to understand. A couple different reasons. One, if you get a late payment, does that impact your credit payment history?
Yes.
One late payment can drop a score of 50 to 150 points. One late payment.
Does that mean it's past the grace period?
Yes, very good question. I was actually about to say that. So now, all credit card lenders or banks or institutions usually have what's called a grace period. Okay? That grace period can be anywhere from 10 to as many as 60 days. Some banks is up to 60. The reason it's important to understand that, let's say your due date on a credit card is the 15th of the month. Typically, if it goes past the 15th, you may have a grace period, but you should always find out. Never assume. Okay? Never assume. Now, let's say this is on a credit card, you pass the due date. Then you'll incur a late payment and typically interest. They're going to increase the interest on that payment. So you always want to make sure you make your payments on time if possible. Now, even more importantly, I always recommend people put their bills on auto pay. Write that down. At least as many as the bills as you can. At least for the minimum payment. Always on auto pay. And that's important to understand because how many people in here know that life happens?
Yes.
Every day. Imagine being on vacation, you out on South Beach, having a good time. Credit card says the payment is due. You forget to pay it. Next thing you know, your score dropped. I see it happen all the time. I see people get late payments on a $300 credit card payment. Because I understand it's not about the dollar amount sometimes. It's the fact that they just forget. So if you set your bills up on auto pay, you minimize those type of mistakes. Okay. Now, in the event if you get a late payment, is it the end of the world? No. Is it the end of the world?
No.
No. Because you can send in to the credit bureaus or the creditor what's called a goodwill letter. And in layman's terms, what a goodwill letter is, you're asking the credit bureau or the creditor, hey, I've been with you guys X amount of time in good faith. Would you please remove or update that payment history on that credit card? Now, it's a 50-50 chance that they'll do it. But how many people will have a 50% chance than a 0% chance of it getting removed? Because if they remove that late payment, what happens to the score? It goes back up, literally, overnight. Goes back up. Now, if you have multiple lates on that account, you run the risk of it, the goodwill letter being ineffective. Because typically this is for a one-time deal. But I'm going to give you guys a strategy when it comes to late payments. You guys ready?
Yes.
All right. Somebody lock the door because this information can't leave here. All right, so how many people, so there are certain credit cards I typically like to stay away from. Credit One, First Premier, what's the other one? First Progress. These are what I call D-tier credit cards. Now they're good for rebuilding your credit, but one of the reasons why I tell people to be careful with those cards, so typically these are cards with low approvals or low amounts that you get approved for. So you got a $300 limit. Now you can have a zero balance on that card, but did you know these cards will charge you a monthly fee to use that card? Usually that monthly fee is like $9.95 per month, even though you're not using it. I've seen people get a late payment on that monthly fee because they assumed they had a zero balance. Happens all the time. And that's because a lot of times they're new to credit because they had a lack of what? Information, the knowledge. So be very careful with these type of cards. Now, in the event, if you get a late payment, this is one of the strategies that I show a lot of my clients. Let's say you get a late payment on that $300 First Premier card. All right? Let's say it's even a couple late payments because you forgot a couple times. Your score just dropped. You're in the 510 credit score range. What we typically will tell that person, hey, you know what? You have a balance on a $300 card, pay it off, close it, and dispute the entire account off. Did y'all catch that?
No.
Okay. Write this down. You got a credit card. The $300 First Premier card has a very low credit limit. Let's say you use $50 of it. You're making a payment, but then you still have that $9.95 monthly payment that they don't tell you about. Well, they do. It's in a small print that no one ever reads on a credit card application. You forget to make that payment. You get a late payment. Score just dropped. So we tell people, a lot of times I tell people, when you have the right credit strategies, these low limit credit cards actually hurt your credit score more than it helps. Just an FYI. Okay? So I tell people, pay off the $50, close this card, and we're going to dispute the entire account off. So now the late payment is no longer showing, and nor do you have to pay that $9.95 anymore. Did y'all catch that?
Yes. Yes.
So again, this is a strategy. Write that word down, strategy. Hold on one second, King. Strategy. See, we don't have a money problem. How many people know that? I want y'all to be honest. How many people know we really don't have a money problem? We just don't have the proper what to get to the money. Right. We don't have enough strategies. How many, if I told you guys getting the money is the easiest part, would you guys believe me?
Yes.
Because it really is. We just don't have enough strategies to learn how to get to the money. See, the one strategy that they've been teaching us is go to school, get good grades, and then live happily ever after. How many people found out that doesn't always work? In fact, they ran them up on us.
Right.
Did you know over the past 20 years, college tuition has increased 88%? I was telling somebody about their business, and I was saying, hey, you need to start marketing your business, marketing it. They were like, why would I do that? Everybody knows me. I said, well, it's the difference between influence and being popular. You might be cute, but don't nobody want to spend money with you.
That's right.
When it comes to marketing, why do we think colleges market and spend billions of dollars on marketing? Because they know they're going to make it back off of the tuitions we're going to spend with them. To get outdated information that by the time we graduate, it's what?
Points.
Obsolete.
And then we got to do what? Go right back to school. Y'all see that? This is why we got to get this type of information. Because now you go to school with a different purpose. I talk about, if you're going to go to school, go for the information, not for the piece of paper. I went to school for one semester, got enough information, I quit. Some of y'all will catch that on the way home. I dropped out. Because I got enough information. I saw, this ain't going to help me? Okay, I'm out. See, we got to get, the information is what's important. This information is important. I promise you, you learn this, if you learn this like your favorite dance, what's the newest challenge, the broom challenge? If we put more energy in this than a broom challenge, we'll be rich. I promise you. So, going back to the strategy. You delete the entire account off. Once that account is deleted, what happens to your score? Literally, overnight. Score goes right back up. So, 35% is based upon what? Payment history. Now, here's the downside to understanding payment history and how it can hurt you if you don't know. Because they said what you don't know can what?
Hurt you.
And it will. What you don't know can hurt you. So in the event you have a credit card, and let's say the credit card has been in good standings for like 10 years. You paid it off, you close it. What just happened to your score?
It dropped.
Drastically. Yes, because of the payment history. 35% of your score is based on payment history. So if you close your oldest account, you lose payment history. This also happens, how many people have ever paid off an auto loan quicker than anticipated and their score dropped? Because you lost what? Write this word down, credit game. This is really a game. I have copies of my book out there, shameless plug. Credit is King. And on the front of the book, it's a chess piece. Because it's all strategies. It's all strategies. I really want people to, I'm telling you, you learn the strategies about credit. Okay? So, how many people here have heard, come buy this automobile and build your credit? How many people know that's not true? Over time it does because of the what? But it doesn't help you build your credit like immediately. And I want people to know because this is tax season. Typically, what do a lot of us in our community go buy during tax season? Instead, we need to be investing in our credit, our businesses, all this other stuff. All right, so payment history. Be careful about closing down old accounts. This is why you need to have access to this information, a credit strategist, joining our RBCs, whatever, because it's going to give you this information. So, payment history, 35% of the score. You guys got that?
Yes.
You guys got that?
Yes.
All right. Next component of what makes up your credit profile. 30% of your score is based on credit usage. Credit usage. Now that credit usage is only tied to revolving accounts. It's only tied to revolving accounts. Now there's two different types of credit. You have revolving, and who can tell me the second? Installment. The difference is with installment credit, that is anything with a fixed payment. Anything with a fixed payment. So that would be an auto loan, a mortgage, your student loans, a fixed payment. Revolving would be anything that has a revolving balance. A credit card, a department store card. Now, write this down. Revolving credit will help you boost your credit score faster than installment. And I'm going to tell you guys why. Revolving credit will help you boost your score faster than installment. A couple different reasons. The way the scoring algorithms work with the credit score is with installment, they know you have to pay that. And I'm going to just put it in layman's terms. Because if you have a mortgage, typically you want to live somewhere, right? So you're going to make that payment. You have an automobile. Obviously, you need to get back and forth wherever you're going. When it comes to credit cards, they call that miscellaneous debt. Typically, when people's financial situation go bad, what do they normally stop paying first? Credit cards. Because they say, you know what, I at least want to keep a roof over my head and still be able to drive. So understanding that, when you know how to manage credit usage on credit cards, that's when your scores can become stronger. It's the difference in going from a 750 to an 850. But I want to let people know, there's no difference from a 700 to an 800. How many people know that? It's really not a difference. It's all aesthetics. You can get the same perks with a 700 than an 800. 800 is really just a stunt. I'm going to just let y'all know. I see y'all posting them on Instagram. Tag me. All right, so when it comes to credit usage, 30% of our score is tied to credit card usage. Which means, and I don't think it's a coincidence, on your revolving credit, you want to keep your balances at what percentage? 30%. Now, I always tell people 30%, that's like a C average in school. Because the lower below 30%, the stronger the what? The score. So I always tell people, if you can get it to 10%, that's even better. Because, I'm going to drop this in here. How many people have heard of the new FICO 10 scoring model? for those who do not know. So there are different scoring models that they try to come out with. Why? I have no idea. I guess people just get bored. So they have different scoring models. Now, the reason, and I'm gonna tell y'all the real reason why they come up with different models, is to box us out. It's to box us out. Because when you don't have good and established credit, it's harder to get approvals. Think about it like this. Why is it easier to get $100,000 in student loan debt than it is to get a $10,000 small business loan? Very, very difficult. I tell people, getting a small business loan is impossible, really. You have better chance winning the lottery. Because they know statistically, 80% of small businesses go bankrupt within the first 2 years. But they know, if I give you $100,000 in student loans, you going to school, whether you graduate or not, you can't discharge this money. You can't file bankruptcy against it, so it's going to follow you forever. That's another way for them to do what? Box us in. We get $100,000 in student loan debt, we're a slave to the debt forever. And so and then understanding that, when you can't afford the debt, now our credit is ruined. See, this is why we need this information. I'm gonna teach you guys some strategies when it comes to student loan debt too. Okay, y'all with me?
Yes.
Okay, so with the FICO 10 scoring model, the reason credit usage is so important, the main difference with the FICO 10 scoring model is they're gonna heavily weigh on your payment history and your debts. So if you pay your bills, if you carry a balance often, your scores drop more when the FICO 10 scoring model comes out. Now, whether it comes out or they actually use it, no one knows. Because about a year and a half ago, they came out with another scoring model called the Ultra FICO score. Didn't use it. 2008, they came out with the Vantage score. Most banks don't use it. But when your credit is already good, you don't have to worry about no matter what model they go to. This is why we need this information. Now, another strategy or another thing that hurts our credit under the new FICO 10. How many people have heard of that Experian Boost? Add your utility bills and help boost your credit. How many people know that can hurt your credit score? Because when you go to apply for a mortgage, the lenders look at it as debt. So if anybody has tied any of those accounts to your credit report, remove it today. I actually had a client who added every single utility, all the cell phone accounts, all of that. Increased their DTI, couldn't get approved for the mortgage they applied for. So this is why we need this information. So now credit usage. What that looks like, you have a credit card for $1,000. You use $700. What's your credit usage? 70%. What just happened to your score? Drastically. And this is because life happened. Your brakes go out. You need a radiator. Whatever happens to your vehicle. If you don't have the cash, typically what are you going to use? Credit card. Because it's a lifeline. It's a lifeline. Now, this is the other thing. I talk to people all the time say, oh, I don't believe in credit cards. And I'm saying, that's fine. But what about a case of emergency situation? I'm going to give you all a really good example of a case of emergency. Anybody remember the Khalif Browder story? If you guys haven't watched that documentary, it's actually on Netflix. It's about a young kid who actually got wrongly accused, ended up going to jail, sat in jail for, I want to say probably 2-3 years, had him in solitary confinement, eventually got out and killed himself because of what it mentally did to him. Y'all want to know how much his bail was? $500.
Oh man.
His family didn't have it.
Didn't have $500. So when I talk about credit and why I'm so passionate about it, imagine if his family had a credit card for $5,000 and could have at least paid his bail. How many people heard the Sandra Bland story? Guess how much her bail was? It's about $500. So now y'all see why credit is so powerful? It's not for us to just go buy stuff. Write this down. Credit is a tool. Credit is a tool. When we understand how to properly use the tools, you become more effective. Any contractors in here? Can you build a house without the proper tools? No. So can you maneuver through life effectively without the right tools? It's pretty kind of impossible. Write this down. Bad credit is expensive. Ask me how I know. Bad credit is expensive. I have a good friend who owns a car dealership. He loves this time of the year. Loves it.
Income tax.
Income tax. Somebody gonna go blow their whole check to put on a vehicle.
That's right.
That's not even gonna be operatable. I don't know if that's a real word. I dropped out of college. You probably know. Or would you rather say, I am smart or I is a millionaire? So, that's a t-shirt. Don't steal it, I'm a trademark. It's my ownership, right? We're gonna own everything around here. So, we're putting 30% down on vehicles that we can't even drive in 6 months. Bad credit is expensive. And so, when it comes to credit usage, don't have enough available credit, life happened, you had to spend $700. This is why I say, at minimum, write this down. You want to have access to at least $5,000 to $10,000 of available credit. At minimum, just in case. In case emergency, break glass type of situation. You can put the credit card up. Reason that's important, let's say you had $10,000 of available credit. Life happened, you still had to spend that same $700. Now what's your credit usage?
7%.
7%. Did your score move much?
No.
Not at all. Strategies. Y'all catching that?
Yeah.
It's about strategies. Now, you may be saying, well, King Will, my credit is not good enough for me to be able to get that $10,000 right now. What can I do? I'm gonna give y'all a treat. Y'all ready?
Yes, sir.
7 people, okay. So we have a couple what we call vendor accounts that we recommend to clients. Some of you may have already used them before. But as long as you have a 500 credit score, we send you the application and it works like a secure credit card. How a secure credit card works is you put up $200, you get a line of credit for $200. With these vendor accounts, you put up $200 with them, they're going to give you a line of credit for $5,000. Their reports on your credit report. We have 2 of them. So 2 $5,000 lines of credit is going to give you how much in available credit? Now, it's not to use. It's just for, no, it's not for emergency. It's just for credit building purposes. It's a credit strategy. See, it's all really about perception. Building credit is about perception. Building a business is about perception. So, adding those 2 $10,000 lines of the 2 $5,000s give you $10,000. Now, let's say you were in this situation. You had $1,000 worth of revolving credit. You used $700 of it. You applied for those 2 $5,000. Now you have a total of $11,000, but you still have the same balance of $700. What just happened to your score? Overnight. This is how you improve your credit overnight. This is why revolving credit is the fastest way to improve your credit score. The fastest way. Now, let's say you're in a situation where your credit card debt is maxed out and you can't afford it. Because how many people have been there before? So some of the strategies you can use for that is applying for what's called a term loan or an installment loan. How many people know what that is? In layman's terms, it's a personal loan. Banks have different terminology. And it's also good to learn these terminologies too. Because you'll go to a banker and you'll be surprised you end up not getting what you want because you don't have the proper what? Information and knowledge. So you end up confusing them, they're confusing you, and you walk out mad. So this is why we need this information. So I've had clients or individuals who we've helped get a personal loan to pay the credit card down, now their usage goes back down, and what happens to their score? Rises. Now, there is another strategy I can talk to you guys about in relation to credit usage, but it's not effective on everything that you're trying to accomplish. And that strategy is by adding trade lines, or what's commonly referred to as authorized users. Now, it does help from a credit improvement standpoint, and I'll tell you what that looks like. So going back to that same situation, you have $1,000 of available credit. You use $700. You have 70% usage. So remember Big Mama who told you credit cards was bad? She had a credit card she didn't tell you about. Trust me, they all got one. It was $10,000. She adds you on as an authorized user. Who knows what an authorized user is? All right, so I'll go into that. Essentially, an authorized user is, I have a credit card. I add you on. I add King Jeff on my credit card. That information now is going to report on his credit report. But now, the other thing, or the caveat to that, if my card gets maxed out, whose credit report is it also going to look maxed out on?
Yes.
If I get a late payment, guess who else has a late payment? And I see this happen all the time, which I looked at a credit report the other day. He has 7 authorized users on there. All of them was maxed out. His credit score was in the 400s. He thought he needed credit repair. No, you just need to find some new friends. They had the wrong information. So he just had to remove himself from those authorized users. But in this situation, you get added onto this credit card. Your new balance is now how much? 10,000 plus 1,000. You still have the same $700 balance. So now what's your usage?
7.
Approximately about 7%. What just happened to your score?
Went up.
Now, the only caveat to this strategy is if let's say you're trying to go to the bank and apply for something, and credit usage is a barometer they use to approve you for credit. Typically, they want the actual account to be paid down. They don't want you to add authorized users to bring the usage down. You guys with me on that? So these are more higher level strategies. This is why y'all want to be in the second class. How many people register for the second class? If you haven't, you're going to put yourself 2 years behind, especially if you're a business owner and an entrepreneur, and I'll go into that here later. So 30% of our credit usage is 30% of our score is based upon what? It's based on what? Now, one last thing in regards to authorized users. How many people in here have teenage children? Now, we want to start building their credit. You can start building their credit as young as 13 years old. 13 years old. What you want to do? Add them on as an authorized user on your credit cards. And then as soon as they turn 18, guess what's going to happen? 700 plus credit. That's the graduation gift we should be giving our students, or our children, or our heirs. We're going to start calling them heirs. Everybody say heirs.
Heirs.
What do we leave behind to our heirs? No, you leave debts and children. See, I'm trying to get y'all to change your mindset. Because how you going to look your young king or queen in the eye and call them your heir and then don't want to leave them nothing?
That's true.
But the 15-year foreign you bought during tax season. Some of y'all will catch that.
So
Basically, a Mercedes-Benz at 20 years old.
So what if they don't listen?
If they don't listen,
I
then,
put her on and she had a 720 and
well, that means, well, maybe she didn't have the proper information.
I kept trying.
Well, now she's here, so she got the right information.
She got it.
See, a lot of times a lot of times we can't push our agenda on someone.
Oh, no.
That's right.
They got to get it when they're
Yeah,
ready.
she gotta learn on her own.
Like one of the things I learned, especially in business, and for all my business owners, I want you to learn this too. Well, I've had people sit down with me and say, "Will, convince me why I need your services." I'm like, no, you should be convincing me why I want to work with you.
That's right.
I'm not in the convincing business.
Mm-hmm.
We good. And so understand, when you're trying to show people information, don't convince them. Because the best way you can show them is by you doing it.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like your parents smoking and tell you not to smoke. They're not going to listen to what you do. They're going to watch what you do. And so the only way we can convince them, quote unquote, is we go out there and do it. You know, I had, for Kwanzaa, I had people booking consultations with me for me to do workshops for their families. They were teaching them the gift of giving. This is why we got to get this information, y'all. All right? So, credit usage, build your child's credit as young as 13. 18, you can pull their credit. And the reason we want them to learn this information at a young age, typically, where do they ruin their credit? When they go where? College. They go to college. As soon as you step on campus, credit card for a free slice of pizza. And trust me, when you're in college, that slice of pizza, boy, you hungry. And a t-shirt. Jeff, you must have a couple, huh?
Man, they saw me coming with.
So understand, we want to put them in what? What's the P word we learned earlier? Position. See, this is why positioning is important. Because see, write this down. When you're properly positioned, I call this the 3 Ps. You get the power to purchase. When you're properly positioned, you get the power to purchase. And that's purchase whatever. Investments, acquiring other businesses, whatever it is you want to do. All right, so 30% of our score is based upon what?
Credit.
How many people are learning something here today? All right, perfect. Because I need y'all to fill out a survey so I can, no, I'm just messing. Don't y'all hate when y'all get those surveys? All right, next, 15% of your score is based on length of history. 15% of your score is based on the length of your history. That means the age of your credit file, age of file. So this goes back to when I talked about going from that 700 credit score to an 800. A lot of times this is what's tied to that. You need to let your credit file mature. Typically, a lot of companies want to see an average age of 5 years. 5 years or more. Every time you apply for new credit, guess what happens to your age of file? It decreases. But this is why you want to have strategies to offset this type of stuff. Now, this is where authorized users can come into play. So going back, Big Mama had that credit card for how much again? $10,000. That card was 15 years old. She added you on. Guess how many years just got added to your credit profile? 15 years. Y'all caught that strategy?
Yeah.
Strategy. Strategy. Anybody here into tattoos? That should be the next tattoo, strategy. Remind us every day. Because with the proper strategies, you can do whatever you need to do. It's about maneuvering through situations. It's about maneuvering through situations. It's all about the strategy. All right, the next 10% is new credit. Now, doesn't that sound like a contradiction? You got to get new credit, but then it affects your length of history. Y'all see why I call it a credit game? Mm-hmm. But new credit is also important. Now, I'm not saying go on a credit binge, but getting access to new credit is important. And then the last 10% is a mixture of credit. What are the two different types of credit? When you have both, your credit profile is stronger. It's stronger. Okay, so we're going to go through this in unison. Y'all ready? Yes. Y'all know what unison means, right?
Yeah.
It's like a choir. All right? So 35% of our score is what?
History.
30% of the score is what?
Credit usage.
Utilization.
Okay. 15. Hold on, I got it up there so y'all don't see it. All right. 15% is what?
History.
10% is what?
New credit.
The last 10% is what?
Credit.
You learn those 5 principles of credit, you will always be able to make sure your credit score is maintained. Always. Because a lot of times, we don't know what needs to be done with our credit because we don't know what makes up our credit. We just know, oh, my credit score is bad. Another thing we need to stop doing. we're family, right? Can I speak to you guys like my cousins? Yes. All right. So I might drop a couple words in here. I get passionate, all right? That means cuss words, all right? When it comes to understanding just how credit works, or when it comes to understanding like the power of knowing about the credit profile, or just when it comes to credit, we need to stop being scared of credit. I see it happen all the time. I know people who are more scared to look at their credit than to carry a pistol. Now, I believe in the right to bear arms if you feel you have to, but why are we scared to look at our credit? I know people who are scared to go to the mailbox because they got some debt out there. I know people who will ask me to call them. I have a 702 number. They won't answer the phone because they think I'm a bill collector. Because that's where all the collection agencies are at in Vegas. And so understand, like, we have to stop being scared of this stuff. Because this is why we're in the situations we're in. Some of it, yes, definitely, we don't have the information. Some of it, we haven't been taught this. But since we can keep it real, the definition of ignorance means you don't know. So some of us are just ignorant. We've been ignorant for how many ever years we've been on this earth. But once you know and you don't do, that's stupid.
That's right.
Like, if I tell you, if you know this flame is going to burn your hand and you still put your hand in that flame,
Right.
that's what? Stupid. That's stupid. So now that we know that credit is the pathway to creating wealth and we don't do it, what does that mean? It's stupid. Because what's our other options to creating wealth?
Insurance.
Well, insurance definitely is a way of generational wealth, and we have classes on that, absolutely. But I'm talking about the foundation, like today, because somebody has to die for us to get the insurance policy.
Right.
Business, real estate.
But how do we get that?
Credit. The credit. The knowledge.
Knowledge.
The knowledge. But it all still starts with the knowledge of what?
Credit.
Credit.
A lot of these no money down real estate strategies, it still has to start with what?
Credit.
Credit. Because the no money down don't mean you can go to the bank and they finance you for 100%. I want y'all to know that.
Right.
That means you have the credit to leverage the bank's money to get the real estate with no money out of your pocket. See, this is why y'all need to be at the second class. That's what I'm really going to. We're going to talk about really getting the bag. So understanding the foundation to everything is what?
Knowledge of credit.
The knowledge of credit. The base premise is credit. But they've done a really great job of brainwashing us that the credit is negative, and it's not. That's the paradigm shift we need to have. Y'all see the psychological beating they've given us in regards to this information? Because they know that information is where the power is at. But not just information, because they say knowledge is what? How many people know that's a lie? Because you got to apply it. Because I know a lot of people that got a lot of knowledge and have nothing in life. They good at playing Xbox. They got a lot of knowledge at that. But now we got to go out and apply the knowledge. Because another thing, and I want to show you guys a couple other strategies in regards to like boosting your credit. How many people want to know that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Couple different things. Y'all still with me?
Yes.
All right. Couple things that hurts our credit score sometimes. What are some of the things that can drop your score? We already know late payments. What else?
Utilization.
We know that. Something we didn't talk about. Those pesky collection accounts. Who knows what a collection account is? Basically, you owe somebody some money, you didn't pay it, and they put it on your credit report. Now, a couple things. So I have a video on YouTube, and I recommend everybody go watch it. Why you should not pay your collection accounts. Did you know paying your collection accounts can drop your credit score?
Yep.
If you don't know the reason why you are paying it. This is why. Let's say you have a collection account. It's 4 years old. It's been on your credit report for 4 years. You never made a payment. Your financial situation improves. Now you're able to pay. Let's say the debt is $510.23. Did you know the longer that debt stays on your credit report, it is less impactful on your credit? When you pay that, remember, a credit score is an algorithm. It only reads information. It doesn't read dollars and cents. Write that down. Credit reports do not read dollars and cents. The reason that's important to know, you can get a collection account for $1 and it can still drop your credit score 150 points. It's not about the dollar amount. They read the information. So, collection account, 4 years old, $510, you pay it off, your score dropped. Because now they just updated this information to a $0 collection account. Y'all caught that? It's a $0 collection account because credit reports don't read what? They read what? They read the information. So for those who rose their hand and said they understand that paying a collection account can drop your score, that's why. Because it read it read the information. It's still a collection, it's just paid off. So in the event, if that's the route you decided to go, I want you to dispute that account. So even if you paid a collection account off, go and dispute it. And if it's tied to an old address, and they go to try to validate that debt, they don't see the address on the credit report, you have a higher percentage of what happening?
Being removed.
To remove. Y'all caught that strategy?
Yeah.
You want to dispute it. Another strategy when it comes to collections. Now, how many people ever got a debt in the mail where they say, hey, you could just settle this debt?
Yeah.
Couple things when it comes to settling. The only time I recommend you settle the debt is if they... Nope, that's because that wouldn't be a settlement. The only time I recommend you settle the debt is if they send you the debt before it hits the credit report. If they send you the collection account before it hits the credit report. That's very common with medical. A lot of times, some of you may not know, medical debt can sit out there for 4 years before they send it to your credit report. And a lot of times, they'll give you the opportunity to make a payment towards it before they send it to collections. Now, if they say, okay, well, you have this collection account for $1,500, we'll take $400. You always want to say, is it on my credit report? No, not yet. Okay, I'll take the settlement. Always take the settlement before it hits the credit report. Now, if it's already on your credit report, I typically don't recommend you settle. Because what happens is, it says that you settled the debt for less than half the balance, and then what happens to your score? Drops. So, if you have an account, I always recommend you do what first?
Dispute it.
Always first. Now, remember, what did we do at the beginning with the addresses? We asked them to delete the old addresses. So if you dispute it and they can't tie it to an address, you have a higher chance of it being what? Removed. So, when you dispute it, that's one strategy of disputing. Another strategy, if they can't validate the debt down to the penny, guess what they have to do?
Remove it.
Whether you owe it or not. Now, disclaimer, it doesn't mean you don't owe the debt. It just means they can't report it on your report. Now, typically, all states have what's called a statute of limitations. How many people know what that means? Essentially, that's the time frame they have to sue you. A company that you owe money to can sue you. Okay? You can actually Google your particular state, because every state is different, to see what the statute of limitations is, depending on the type of debt it is. All right? So, most states, it's 4 years from the last date of activity. 4 years from the last date of activity. So, if you're past the statute of limitations and you have a collection account, you should always do what first? Always. Because if it comes off, guess what happens to your score? Goes up. Yes.
how do you dispute it? Because I've been told that you do it by letter to the credit
Great
bureau.
question, and I was just about to get that. So the king asked, how do you dispute that debt? All right, first thing you want to do, sign up for our RBCs. We have a whole course. But to answer your question directly, King, one, never dispute online using a credit monitoring service. Never dispute online using a credit monitoring service. So the credit bureaus use a software called eOscar. That eOscar software is also used by the credit monitoring services. So essentially, you're trying to kill them with their own poison. They're immune to it. Secondly, they have limited items that you can utilize of the reason of why you're disputing that debt. So I never recommend you dispute online. Always dispute by paper. And in our RBCs, even in my book, Outside Credit is King, I have sample dispute letters at the back of the book. Had a queen today just sent me a DM saying, King, my score jumped 79 points just using the free strategies you gave me. So again, if you're going to dispute, always dispute on paper. Always. Yes.
Did you say eOscar?
eOscar is the software that the credit bureaus use. Yes. So always dispute on paper. Now, so when it comes to a settled account, when it comes to a collection, do you want to settle it?
No.
Depends. If what? Correct. Now, another situation you may run into. Let's say a company wants to sue you. Have a client right now dealing with a debt. It's about $5,100, and they want to sue her. That's a situation that you also may potentially want to look at to settle. Also potentially. Or you can make a payment arrangement with them. So again, there's different strategies depending on the situation. But a lot of times the reason, you guys want to know the number one reason why a lot of creditors sue people? Because we are ignoring their letters and correspondences. This is why we got to stop being scared to open our mail. Because a lot of times they may have sent you that debt before it hit your credit report, and you could have did what with them? Settled before it even got to the point of where they want to sue you. And typically you can do a settlement for 40 to 60 cents on the dollar. 40 to 60 cents on the dollar. Of course, you want to go in as low as you can at first. All right, you guys learning something?
Yes.
Okay, next, strategy. In understanding your credit and how to dispute it and work on it. Bankruptcies. Who know what a bankruptcy is? Nobody? Okay. Commonly referred to as BKs. First thing I always tell people, bankruptcy is not for poor people. Because I've heard people say that before. Bankruptcies are not for poor people. Also, bankruptcy doesn't always mean you have no money. How many people have learned that? Not sure if you guys ever heard of this up-and-coming rapper named Curtis Jackson. You guys heard of him? That's 50 Cent, y'all. He filed bankruptcy. Was he broke? No. He was protecting his assets. Write this down. Bankruptcy is asset protection when done effectively. It's asset protection. A lot of times you file bankruptcy to protect your assets. The reason that's important to know is because I've seen people file a bankruptcy for a late payment. We have to stop doing that. All right? Now, in the event of having a bankruptcy, how many years can it stay on your credit report? 10. 10. Or you can get it removed. How many people do that? Yes. Write this down. You can dispute a bankruptcy. You guys want to know a strategy on doing that?
Yes.
Yeah. I want to everybody to say yes before I
Yes.
Yes.
I really just need a drink of water. So, let me give y'all some strategy. Who's heard of a company called LexisNexis? I think that's how you spell it. So you can go to LexisNexis, and you can Google it, and Google LexisNexis opt-out. LexisNexis opt-out. You can go there, it'll literally take you 30 seconds, fill out some information, and you can suppress some of your public record information. When you do that, and you dispute the bankruptcy, you increase your chances of them removing it when you dispute it. Y'all caught that? So what do you do?
Go to Lex
Lex
Alexis
Alexis.
and select opt-out,
To increase,
and then,
suppress your
suppress
public.
your,
Yeah, suppress your public information.
Gotta dispute it first. After you suppress it, then you dispute it. So remember, we dispute online or by paper.
paper.
Mail it in, certified mail. I don't think y'all know how big this is. Knowing you can dispute a bankruptcy, because how many years can it stay on your report?
10.
But just imagine, today is the day it got discharged. How many people know what discharge means?
Let go.
That means the bankruptcy is finished.
Yeah.
Your discharge, you can dispute it when? Today. So imagine how much more free you would be credit-wise with this bankruptcy not reporting on your credit report. Increases your score. Because filing bankruptcy can drop your credit score as many as 250 points. Yes.
Is there a time frame where it's more likely to be removed? Like if it's 2 years?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Yes.
People don't know that you can always rebuild your credit.
Absolutely.
This is something that so many people I know don't know. You can go from 400, 500, 600 to 800. People do not
All the
know.
time.
Bad credit is not forever.
Absolutely. The Queen said you can always rebuild your credit. Write this down. You can always rebuild, repair, restore, and recycle your credit. The recycling part is being the credit partner. Yes, sir.
And does that only work for bankruptcies or
Yeah.
for all public records as well?
Well, typically bankruptcies are the only public records they're reporting now because they can't report tax liens anymore. And the King asked for the live stream, does opting out of LexisNexis only work for bankruptcies? And the only public records that they can report now are bankruptcies. Yes, Queen.
I was gonna ask about judgments as well.
So a judgment, it depends on the type because now they're putting evictions as collections, but I would still work that same strategy if they do put it in the public records, yes. And the Queen asked for live stream, does that same apply or is it applicable for judgments? In layman's terms, yes. Okay, so bankruptcy, is it the end of the world?
No.
If you have bad credit, is it the end of the world?
No.
No, because it can be what?
Repaired, rebuilt, recycled.
Absolutely. Man, y'all was all the way off. Gonna need a choir course in here. Okay, bankruptcies. Another thing, those pesky credit inquiries. Who knows what those are? Those are like roaches. Did you know, every time you go to the car dealership, they can run your credit an average of 7 to 15 times?
Yes.
I found that out from the video.
Absolutely. They can run your credit 7 to 15 times. So now imagine going to the dealership with subpar credit. They shop into 10 different banks. They run your credit 7 to 15 times. How many times? All 10 times. Because remember, they're trying to find a bank that's willing to give you a loan that can support the purchase price of the vehicle you just purchased. So, how many people know credit inquiries drastically affect your credit? Now, I hear all the time, well, if you do it so many times in a week, it only counts as one pull.
That's a lot.
That's a lie. The lie detector determined that's a lie. Right. You are not the father of these credit inquiries. 7 to 15 times. Now, I looked at a credit report the other day, 177 credit inquiries. That's what I said, how? After the third place told me no, I would have just gave up.
Hey,
I would call him a credit partner. But that's because this is what we do. We think we cross our fingers and fill out an application hoping the information changes. I've seen people literally do. I know somebody going to. I get people that hit me up and say, hey, you know where I can get a loan for bad credit? I did that too, I laughed. I said it don't exist. But I'll tell you where you can go. You're going to give up your firstborn, your soul, and your blood. Y'all want to know where that's at? Payday loans. Who knows what the average interest rate is on a payday loan?
200%.
How much? 200? Oh, I would like to know what payday loan
Nah, I
person
was
going
like at 28, something like that, 26.
as high as 1,000%. I'm gonna tell y'all how powerful information is. Y'all ready for this?
Yeah.
What type of communities are more prevalent to have payday loans?
People of color.
So guess who had the information to put the payday loans in our communities? Nope. The people who get the money off of the people who get payday loans. That's why the information is so powerful. Do you know when you get a payday loan, they hope you default? Because guess what? When you can't pay it off, they renew the term. When they renew the term, we got you. Locked in. I know people who paying on a $500 payday loan and it's been 3 years.
Wow.
Because of the interest. This is why we got to get our credit in position. Did you know less than 55% of black and brown people are underbanked? Meaning we don't have access to banks.
Yeah.
No bank account, nothing. And when we can't go and cash our check at a bank, where we go? Check cashing place. What type of communities are those located in? They have the information. Title loan companies. Who can tell me the average interest rate on a title loan? About 750%. You can take a big wheel, they'll put a title on it. For those who don't know what a big wheel is, just Google it. Go to your phone. We got to do better. We got to do better, y'all. And I'm not saying this to you guys or the live stream. I'm saying as a community, we got to do what? Better. We have to do better. This is why we're in situations we're in. This is why we can't get ahead. This is why we can't leave generational wealth. This is why we look at them as our children and not our what? Heirs. We got to do better. Because if you need $300 and you have to go to a payday loan versus I have a $10,000 credit card and the $300 may be of a case of emergency. We're putting ourselves in these bad situations because we lack the information. This is the core reason of why this Legacy Center, this core mission was started. We knew that there was a huge disparity in the what? Information. What if I told you that credit can save somebody's life? I'm gonna share a story with you. So I had a friend who was going through some challenges in life and financially was in a very bad place. And when your money is bad, what else normally is messed up? Mentally. Do you know he thought about committing suicide because he couldn't, because of the financial situation he was in? And so he ended up actually finding me on YouTube. This is why when we have access to information, no matter what your field is, this is why content is key. All my business owners, content is currency. Your content is your new currency, but also it's the information. He found me on YouTube. At that point, I hadn't talked to him in probably like 10 years. Reached out to me through YouTube via email. I replied to him immediately because I was like, man, I hadn't talked to you in years, forever. So we were on the phone literally like 5 hours just catching up. He was telling me some of the things he was going through. He had lost his mom's, financially was going, wherever he was, going because he was taking care of his mother. And as I'm talking to him, I'm finding out he really didn't have a money problem. He had a credit problem. Because guess what? He owned 7 properties. I'm just sitting there thinking and I'm taking notes. How do you own 7 properties and you're doing bad? Because he didn't have the proper what? Information and strategies. So now I started working with him, helped him get his credit in position. And I remember coming home one day, I went to the office and he sent me a gift to my office of his way of gratitude of just saying thank you and saying, Will, the information you gave me saved my life. And so what he actually just did, and this is part of the gift, is he was able to purchase and secure a building in the city where he's from, and he's turning it into a credit cafe that he wants me to run.
Wow.
Nice.
Powerful. Credit saved his life. The information of the credit. This is why I'm passionate about credit, because I know what it's done for me. I moved to Las Vegas in 2005, for those who don't know my story. When I moved to Las Vegas, I didn't know anybody. I literally moved with a dollar and a dream. Anybody heard that saying before? I had to borrow $500 just to go. I remember buying a one-way ticket. I had a garbage bag, like a hefty garbage bag of clothes. I didn't even have a suitcase. Had to get out of my situation where I was at in Milwaukee. And so moved to Las Vegas 2005, got down there, rented a room from somebody. That situation went horribly bad. Was able to finance a vehicle. I didn't know much about credit. As I later got throughout further in my journey, the vehicle had like a 29% interest rate. How many people know that's high on an automobile? But I see it all the time. So got out there, didn't have a place to stay. I'm sleeping in my car. But I remember just, again, we talked about the definition of insanity. And so I started to learn about credit. So imagine if I hadn't had that experience, because I don't call it a loss. I don't call it a fail. I call it an experience. Imagine if I hadn't had that experience, where I would be today. Because that experience is what triggered my mind to be where I am today. And it all started with understanding what? Credit. So imagine where you could be in the next 3 to 5 years with this information. Just think about that. Because they said, we all determined earlier, if we want to change our next 3 to 5 years, we have to change when? Today. Right now. Not now, right now.
That's right.
How many people know this is life or death for us, y'all?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is life or death for us. Because who's coming to save us?
Nobody.
Did you know every single community has a bank that supports their community? Think about it. Chinese, the Europeans, they got all the banks.
That's right.
Think about it. Do we have a Bank of Africa?
No.
Because a black bank is not the same thing, y'all. Because they still operate under the guidelines of the land. We don't have a Bank of Africa. So who's here to support us? Really think about that. See, this is what I always talk about, and I want everybody to write this down. Your mindset. I don't care what you do. It's all about the mindset. 80% of success is tied to your mindset. And that's success in anything. Whether you're trying to get physically fit, whether you're trying to build wealth, whether you're trying to build a career, 80% of success is tied to mindset. We need to have a different mindset when it comes to credit, money, wealth. We need to have a different relationship with money, credit, wealth, all of that. We need to change our mindset because we're operating off of old information. We're operating off of principles that our mama told us. And guess who mama got her information from? Big Mama. And guess where Big Mama got her information from? She made it up. So, for real, isn't it? We're operating off information that was made up. Because they didn't get the information. Because just think about it. For those who don't know, I'm about to plug everything, y'all, so y'all gonna forgive me. I have a podcast called The Wealth Files that you can listen to on YouTube. And on the latest episode, I talked about why is college the only route pushed to us for success? Y'all notice it's pushed in our community the most.
Right.
That's marketing. Somebody had information. And I talked about, I understand we're not far removed from learning how to read was illegal. We're talking like 400 years. That's not a long time ago. So when I talk about Big Mama making up information, we're operating off of made up information. Because Big Mama couldn't even read. This is why this information is life or death for us. Y'all with me on that?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna give y'all one more strategy when it comes to auto loans. How much time we got, Queen?
It's 11:38.
Oh, okay.
So, 20
Okay, we still got time. Y'all enjoying this?
Yes. Yes.
Y'all will come back if we do this again?
Yes.
How many people gonna bring somebody though?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Jazz, that's the cue. Get the collection plate. We ready. It's like financial church. 'Cause I need a jet. All right, I'll take a G4. No, I'm just playing. All right, auto loans. I'm gonna give y'all some things in dealing with auto loans. Charge-offs. Repos. How many people know what those are?
Yes.
Now, yes. A voluntary repo is still a repo. I just want to let people know. And for those who do not know what that means you turned the car in. Y'all want to hear a funny story? So when I moved to Las Vegas, I told you I was able to get a vehicle, right? So my situation was so messed up, I couldn't even afford the car registration on a vehicle. Because in Vegas, because we don't pay state taxes, they hit you with car registration based upon the MSRP of the vehicle. And so my car registration was like $600 on this car. Couldn't afford it. So I drove around on temporary plates for like 9 months. And I remember one time I got pulled over by the police, and so I drove into the casino parking lot because they couldn't tow my car because I had the right information.
That's right. Wow.
Some of y'all will catch that. They couldn't tow my y'all will catch that later. So eventually I just said, come pick up the car. Because they started calling everybody that I knew. It got embarrassing. So I turned it in and it was a repo. So now if you have a repo or a charge off, what do? Dispute it. You can dispute it. Now, a couple things in relation to that. How many people know when it comes to auto loans, it's actually auto loan fraud that they're committing? The reason that is, when you go to a dealership and they got the sticker price on the vehicle, let's just say it's $31,618. But after you go and meet with the finance manager who's in his big fancy office and he's trying to scare you, and you walk out and the vehicle is like $37,321.
That's right.
That's fraud. So when the information is reported on the credit report, they're not reporting the information accurately. But because we have a lack of what? Knowledge and information, we just accept whatever they put on our reports. This is why I tell people, always have access to your credit monitoring. So when you dispute it the proper way, and we give you the strategies on how to dispute it in our RBCs, in my book, Credit is King, you have a higher chance of getting that repossession deleted off your credit report. Strategy. It's definitely strategies in there, yes. Now, another thing in relation to auto loans, and you have that interest rate for 29%. Did you know you can repair your credit and go back and refinance that auto loan?
Yes.
Now, another strategy. Let's say you have an auto loan and it has, let's say, multiple late payments. I'm going to give y'all a strategy. Y'all ready? We've done strategies. Y'all ready, live stream? We've disputed the entire auto loan off. Got the auto loan removed and then went and refinanced the automobile to a new loan, so now the old loan can't report anymore. One more time? Okay. So, we have an auto loan. And it has late payments on there. We dispute the late payment. We dispute the entire account off. So now the loan is no longer showing. So what happened to your score?
It started to go up.
The score went back up. So now because your score is increased, you can go to a bank and refinance the automobile.
Got it.
And now you have a new loan reporting and the old one is no longer reporting. And you probably got a lower interest rate too. That's strategy. I'm telling y'all, this is why we got to learn the credit game. Because this works and applies for everything. We got to learn the credit game. Last thing I'm going to leave you with, debt consolidation. How many people know what that is? Debt consolidation. Don't do it. It's worse than bankruptcy. Because you're locked in for 3 to 7 years. They typically tell you to stop making payments on everything, and they'll go shop around, try to find you a loan to make payments forever. Don't do it. Don't do it. One last thing, student loans. How many people know what that is?
Yeah.
That's like saying a cuss word to somebody.
My cold day in hand.
Real. Sally Mae. Boys, she'll get you. How many people know you can dispute student loans? Write that down. You can dispute student loans if they are in default because they may not be reporting information accurately. Now, it doesn't mean you don't owe it if it comes off, just FYI, because student loans will follow you forever. Forever, ever. But if the information is reporting wrong or it's late payments and different things on there, you can dispute it off the report. Now, one of the things, the first thing you want to do is get it out of default. Get the student loans out of default. They have different things like income-based repayment programs. Another thing, how many people know if you work for a nonprofit and you have, I think, up to 120 hours, they'll forgive a portion or if not all of the student loan debt. So I will go and find a nonprofit to go and work with today. For real, volunteer your time. You're not missing nothing.
How many hours, Ken?
No, not hours. Well, it goes by hours and I think years. So you want to, everyone is different. But if you call the student loan servicer, they'll tell you this. But if you don't ask, guess what? They won't tell you. Yes.
What if you have a nonprofit?
I believe that does count. You want to ask the student loan servicer. Ask the student loan servicer. And the king asks, what if you have your own nonprofit? Is that applicable? So student loans can be removed. The reason it's important to know that, this hurts a lot of our credit reports, and because I'm looking at the reports. A lot of us have great credit, but the student loans is jacked up. That's because they're getting us in these absorbent student loans. The interest is piling up against us, and we're not able to make the proper payments. Y'all with me on that?
Yes.
Okay, so we understand it's not about the credit score, it's about the what?
Credit report.
The profile.
Profile.
Come on, y'all supposed to know that part. Let's do this one more time. It's not about the score, it's about the what? Profile. All right, 35% of the score is what? 10% is what?
You credit history.
New credit.
Oh, you said 10%.
10%. See, I got y'all.
Oh, you got it good.
15% is what?
Length.
History.
Length of history. Look at our notes, people. See, this is why we're losing. We're trying to memorize everything. We got the information right there. 30% of our score is what?
Utilization.
And then the last 10%?
Credit history.
Credit mix.
Good job. Can bankruptcies be deleted?
Yes.
Can bankruptcies be deleted?
Yes.
Can late payments be removed?
Yes.
You can send in a what?
Goodwill.
Goodwill letter, absolutely. Can you refinance out of a bad auto loan?
Yes.
How many people getting a payday loan?
Nobody.
I want to see somebody gonna raise their hand. I was gonna escort you out of here. All right, so what I want to do. Well, first, give yourself a round of applause for getting this information. Learn something new. You cannot go back and operate off of old information. Because now, once you know better, you can do better. And we should be doing better after today. We should do better after today. So, now, we talked about GAS. What does that stand for?
That's support.
Again, where are my entrepreneurs and business owners? So, I wrote a book called Full-Time CEO, The Shit They Don't Tell You. And the reason I wrote that book is because in business, Most of us fail because of a lack of what? Information. It's the shit they don't tell us. The next class that I'm doing is going to be how to get the money. TBM stands for what?
The bank's money.
Bank money. The first information I gave you guys was to literally just put you in position to get the bank money. Who in here has a cell phone? Put your phone in the air. First of all, who's serious about their financial legacy? Keep your hand up. Who's dead ass serious about their financial legacy?
Okay,
If you haven't registered for the next class, show me it's real. Register.
I'm already registered.
This for the people who haven't.
Already registered.
And the reason I say that is because we cousins, right?
That's right.
We'll come to a free class but won't invest $50 to get to the next level. I would call somebody and ask for $50 right now.
That's right.
I would call someone and say, look, you probably owe me, so I need that $50 back right now. If you have a credit card, you need to be at this class. Because I'm going to show you the strategy. I'm going to show you things that the bank underwriters don't want you to know. I'm going to show you the things that bank underwriters do not want you to know. That's why you need to be at this next class. Live stream, that's why you need to be registered for this next class. So now, a couple things in relation to getting more in-depth information to our RBCs. How many people are enrolled in any of our courses right now? All right, for everybody else, why not?
I never heard of it.
All right, perfect. So we all learning something new today. All right, thank you. RBC stands for Real Estate, Business, and Credit. What if I told you these are the 3 pillars to creating wealth? If you learn about real estate, you learn about business, you learn about credit, you'll always be able to get money or create money. Always. Because we're going to teach you the strategies. Now, what if I told you we have multi-billion-dollar information in this course? What's the average 4-year tuition for a school or an institution? Average tuition for a 4-year institution. Let's just say one year. Let's just say it's $20K. How much do you think our RBC curriculum costs?
$1,500.
$1,500. That's a crackhead price. This actually proves my point. We value our information too little. This really should be a $100,000 course, the RBCs. Because the information that most people learn in this course has propelled them to go and make hundreds, millions of dollars. This course, because we want to give back, we love our people, we love our community. Right now, $497 in real life. And you can make payments. I know people cable bills who's more than $497. I seen that in 1 month. I don't want to know what channels you watching though. You can make payments. Also, when you register for our $497 course of the RBCs, we're going to give you access to our business funding course. We're going to teach you how to get the money. Give you access to all of that. We have weekly mentorship calls. We have the GAS, which stands for what? Guidance is the blueprint. But to get the guidance, you got to be enrolled to get the information. We're going to give you access. With our funding curriculum, we give you access to our lenders. Work with our underwriters. I had a client out of I think he's out of Peoria or Aurora, Illinois, somewhere. He signed up for our RBCs, signed up for one-on-one coaching with me personally. Lost his job in the middle of one-on-one coaching. Called me, said, "Kingwell, I lost my job." Guess what's the first thing I told him?
No refund.
No refund. But because of the and the plus
Support.
we was able to help him get over the course of, I want to say, like 18 months, $132,000 of business capital. No job. He didn't have income. Couple months after that, got his first investment property. No income, but he had capital. This is what we teaching in the RBCs, and that's what the strategies I'm going to be teaching at the next class at 1:30 p.m. That's why you need to be there. So I'll take a few questions, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Live stream if you have any questions, or in person. Yes, Ken.
I just wanna know where to sign up, that's all,
Oh, for which one?
and everything.
You should.
Yeah,
We
that,
have WEAs.
Yeah, we have
outside.
WEAs, our wealth
Okay.
advisors, they'll be able to get you signed up right away.
right.
Appreciate you coming out too, King. Yes, Queen.
Your thoughts on freezing your credit?
I'm actually I believe in doing that, primarily because of the different data breaches. And the Queen asked, what do I feel about freezing your credit? Yes, I do believe in that, because if someone was to ever compromise your information, that institution has to call you to validate if you were the one who actually filled out that application. So yes, I do believe in doing that. Yes, King.
Sir, I had a timeshare in Alaska,
Okay.
and I had these people, I don't know if they was paying the money, or they had bought it from the timeshare people. The name was Red Diamond. But then I moved from another house from Minnesota to Georgia.
Okay.
So I still had the same phone number, and they quit calling me.
Okay.
So I can, wow. Yeah, I'm trying to say, well, I guess what I'm trying to say is, they quit calling me. What happened to that debt? Because everybody else had called me, but they ain't.
Have you pulled your credit report to see if it's on there?
No, not lately.
I recommend you pull your credit report. And because if it is on there and it's reported as a foreclosure,
Yeah,
you need to get that disputed.
okay.
Yes.
It's about 10 years.
Okay, so it's possible it's past the statute of limitations,
Yeah.
which means they can no longer collect on it.
Okay.
So I would still go and pull your credit report and make sure it's not reported.
Okay.
Yes, very good question. He was asking about a timeshare, said the debt has been about 10 years, people harassing him, they no longer calling him. You may have dodged a bullet. So, but you want to pull your credit report just to double check him. All right, Queen, yes.
I know you said no to debt consolidation, but what if it's a personal loan?
That's the only route that I would recommend you go. Yes, but not a debt consolidation company.
Okay.
Good question, yes.
How do you get the inquiries off?
Yes, so with the inquiries, you can, you can dispute those.
Okay.
So what you want to do, how many people know you can dispute inquiries?
Even if they're legit, just dispute them.
No, not necessarily, not saying even if they're legit, dispute them. On any closed account, you definitely want to dispute those.
Okay.
On an open account, the strategy is a little bit more complex. That's another reason why the second class is important, because you can have an 850, but if you have 13 inquiries, the bank will deny you.
Yeah. Really?
Yes.
What about, okay, all right, and then the last question was, what is your advice on buying a car or all, on getting all of them?
Oh yeah, I'm fine as long as you purchase the right way. Meaning you're not upside down, you buy with a good interest rate. And also too, always get your own financing.
What if you are upside down?
If you are upside down, we will have to look at some strategies to help you get out of that, but never buy from the dealership. Always go to a bank, to your credit union, get approved, get a check, and now you go to the dealership. Never use the dealership's financing.
Why is that?
Because one, the dealership is gonna run your credit multiple times. Thirdly, they're gonna beat you up on interest,
Yeah.
because they make money off the more points they charge you. Yes, King?
Yeah, so what happens if your credit stays stagnant, but you've been paying off the credit card in full?
Okay.
Just to help boost the score, but it just will not move.
Okay, so the King asked, what do you do if your credit score is stagnant, but you've been making payments and different things like that? So in that situation, we would have to look at your credit profile. One, it may just be the age may not be mature enough. Two, you may not have enough history
It's
or
like
enough
6
credit.
years, like it
How much revolving credit do you have?
under 10,000.
Under 10,000?
So between all of the cards.
Yeah, so that could be another scenario too. It's under. Do you have any installment accounts?
That's a mortgage.
Okay, so yeah, so it's probably a combination of it's not enough revolving as well as your file may not be as dense. But that's why we typically like to look at a report to see.
I have a Facebook question.
Yes.
Damn, where'd it go? What about consolidating your credit card to another credit card?
Yes, so consolidating your credit card, or essentially it's called a balance transfer. You just want to make sure you get a credit line that's high enough that can absorb that debt. And what that looks like is, let's say you have some credit cards and you owe, I just had a client, she said she has about $7,000 in credit card debt. All right. What you want to do is make sure that you get a limit high enough that can absorb this debt, because it's two ways you can look at this. Let's say you get another car for $7K on the dot. You can move it over, and this is at 0% interest, which means the payment will go down. But then the downfall is your credit utilization will still be where it's at. So that's one of the things that you want to be careful of. But now let's say you get a credit card that's like 20K, 0% interest. You're always going to find something at a lower interest rate. You move that debt to the 20,000. Now your utilization decreases, so it helps your score. Now, another thing, how many people know you can go in and negotiate your interest rates with the credit card companies? Now, typically, you got to have good credit to do that. So let's say your interest rate is like 18%. You can go in and ask them to reduce it, the interest rate. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to, but you want to negotiate with that. Threaten to leave them if you have to, because they don't want you to, because that's how they make their money. All right? So, yes. So to answer your question, you can do a balance transfer. Just be conscious of the reason why you are doing it, and make sure that you're getting something with a lower interest rate. That would be the only reason I would do that. Queen, right there.
I have old debt, 2 credit cards with one company. One old debt I know is dead. The other one I'm not sure if it's dead, but I don't want to dispute one and then the other one wakes up.
Correct.
How should I handle that?
So one is, some of it isn't reported, is what you're saying?
Nobody's bothering me now.
Have you looked at your credit reports?
No.
That's what I would go by, because it may be reported. And again, that goes back to where I said we have to stop being scared of the debt. We want to attack it head on, because once you know what you're dealing with, you can handle it. It's just about getting a proper strategy on what to do to handle it. Because if the debt is past the statute of limitations, they can't sue you. And if they can't sue you, you want to go and dispute it. And then, of course, we look at the strategies on how we dispute it, so now you get it off your report. But we don't know if we don't pull our credit reports. Yes, Queen?
Okay.
So if you consolidated your debt with a company already, are you buying it for that contract?
Yes. Yep, you're locked in. Unless you can come up with enough cash to pay them, to buy them out.
I have a Facebook
Yes.
question. If you have a repo with an attorney's office and they're not responding to dispute letters, what should I do?
So with the repo with the law firm, typically that means they've sent it to their attorney, which means you run the risk of being sued. So what I would recommend, first of all, find out what the status of that is. But more importantly, once it goes to that law firm, you are pretty much kind of tied in or bounded. But if it's still reporting as the repo on the credit report, you want to dispute with the credit bureau, not the law firm. You want to dispute it with the credit bureau. Because the information is, the bureau holds the information, not the attorney. The attorney just is collecting on behalf of the original creditor for that debt. Yes, Queen?
Yes, and when you dispute anything, you write all 3 credit bureaus?
If it's reporting on all 3, yes.
Okay.
Because they may not be on all 3.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I always tell people to pull their reports. Yes, Queen?
I recently tried to purchase me a home, and the guy that I was I was talking to, he just told me that, well, Ms. Cooper, you have like 3 things that you really just, he told me don't dispute it, but he told me to sell it. So when I called one of them, on my actual credit report, it said I owe $400, but when I called them, they said $900. So now I'm just like, it's the first credit card.
That's okay. No.
One of them, but I don't know what
What to do? All right, great question. So the Queen asked, she went to a mortgage broker. She has a couple debts and accounts. He said, don't dispute it, just settle. I'm going to tell y'all something. A lot of these mortgage brokers and lenders know nothing about credit.
Okay.
So now, the reason he's saying don't dispute it is because when you dispute it, the notes in on the credit report, the lenders won't accept that. And so he wants you to settle because then it can go through faster. But then you run the risk of your score dropping. See, the lender, they don't know that because they don't know enough about credit. So what I would personally do is, if you can pay it and request a deletion letter, pay it and request a deletion letter. That's what you want to do. Pay it and request a deletion letter. If you, now, are you on a time for trying to close on the property? No. Okay, if you're not in a hurry, you can, if they don't want to accept the deletion letter, then dispute it. Because then once you get your credit cleaned up, you can go back and start shopping. But yeah, I'm gonna tell y'all, a lot of these lenders, a lot of these mortgage brokers, a lot of these bankers know nothing about credit.
Yeah.
This is why we gotta get the information. All right, couple more questions, just came.
If you have 10 accounts, one of them is a maxed out card.
Yes.
So it's 100% on one card, but it puts you, let's just say, at 10% overall utilization. Is that one maxed out card going to affect your score more so than it being spread out over several
Good question.
cards?
So the king asks, you have 10 cards, one is at 100% usage or close to being maxed out, but the overall credit utilization is 10%. From a credit score standpoint, no, it doesn't hurt you. But when you're trying to get funding or capital for your business, yes, it will. Yep, you want to have all your cards at that 30% or less. Yes, king in the back.
Which one of your books would you recommend if you're a business owner?
Thank you.
So, I'm gonna ask you a question like this. If you're walking down the street and it's 150 on the floor, which one are you picking up? Grab both books, King.
King Eugene has a live stream question.
King Eugene, yes.
Is it an issue if a student loan is consolidated and I remove a student loan with just payment history? I just want it gone because the amount is affecting my income ratio.
Great question. So they asked, is it an issue with consolidated student loans? The student loan has good payment history, but you want to remove it to lower your DTI, which stands for debt to income ratio. That can be a tricky one because if those student loans are the accounts with the longest amount of history and you get those removed, guess what happens to the score? It drops. So we want to look at different strategies from a DTI standpoint. So if they're trying to purchase a house, they may want to get a co-borrower. So it really depends on what their end goal is. And typically, whenever we sit down with the client, we always want to ask what their end goal is, because we're going to give them a strategy based upon that end goal. All right, a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap up. But again, I really want you guys to understand that RBC course that we have here. I really want you to understand why you need to be at the second class at 1:30. Because if you're a business owner and you're really serious about your business, you can't afford not to make it. Yes.
Okay, how long does it take for derogatory remarks to come off your credit report?
Okay.
35 days or longer?
Queen, they said they're having some issues with the payments for the second class.
Okay, I'll come up after you finish.
Okay, all right. Who had a question? Eugene?
Yeah, live stream. How long does it take for derogatory remarks to come off your credit report? 30 to 45 days or longer?
It can depend on the debt. They actually have a list of the top most difficult creditors to deal with. Most of them are like the luxury auto loan company. So if you get an automobile finance from like Land Rover or Mercedes-Benz, those can be very difficult. But again, that's why you want to have the proper strategies when you are disputing that debt. So there's really no time frame. But the good thing, just like the Queen alluded to earlier, you can always restore, rebuild, or repair your credit. So you can dispute a debt as many times as you want. That's the thing I always tell people. Sometimes we try something once and it don't work. What do? We stop. Like, we got to get out of that mindset. We have to get out of that mindset. All right, 2 more questions. Yes, Queen.
How many accounts do you recommend having open to be considered a strong credit profile?
Good question. It's not a matter of how many accounts, it's the type of accounts. Because you can have 10 credit card accounts, but they all under $1,000 and your file will be weak.
Right.
So it's the type of accounts. It's really no max.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a Facebook question.
Yes.
What's the best strategy for paying down student loans, even if it's in good standing?
So one of the best strategies is we got to get more income. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, but we get the strategies on how to get more income by doing what? Getting more information. See, the thing I did one of my FICO Fridays, I talked about how to 10x your income in 2020. How many people want to know how to do that? 10x means how to multiply your income. Get more information. That's why our RBCs and different things like that are important. That's why understanding how to run a business effectively is important. See, one of the reasons a lot of our businesses fail is we don't know business. We just have good ideas and we're good at what we do. I knew somebody who was a great cook, tried to open a restaurant, failed miserably. Because he knew how to cook. He didn't know how to run a business. And so that's the thing. All right, I'll take one more question. Live stream, yes.
Yeah, so King Will, somebody said, the RBC course is saying $497, but the website says $997.
They'll get that. Oh, it's
It's 3 prices.
It's a,
Just see us.
okay. Well, if they're on live stream.
Can we get their information?
All right, get their information. All right, I'll take one more in-class question. Yes, Queen.
So your book about the CEO, I have a son that called me last week, he's quitting his job on full-time real estate. Put that book out.
You definitely want to get that book. Because, I mean, this is the thing I tell people. See, a lot of times when we buy books or join courses, we're looking for that one magic thing that's going to change our life and circumstances. It's the multitude of information that gives us the strategy. And then we have to apply it. That's what it is. I tell people, it took me 6 years to make a profit in my business. How many people are willing to sacrifice 6 years without making money in their business? See, that's one of the things mentally we need to understand in business. You may not make no money. I talk about that in my book, that it's a struggle. Entrepreneurship is hard. Business is hard, but it's rewarding. See, I did it because I wanted freedom. I wanted the money. Not because I want a lot of money, but what the money can do for you. Live in better neighborhoods. Take my kids on vacation. Better schools. Like, it's better food. I mean, have you seen how much a gallon of water costs? The good water. It's a difference. So this is why we need this type of information. All right, so I'm gonna bring up my sis, my queen, Shaniqua. She's gonna come up here and drop us with a couple pieces of information. Y'all give her a hand.
Appreciate King Will so much. Who learned something in here today? This King right here. I mean, I'm Shaniqua Nicole. If you guys don't know me, the president of Legacy Center Financial Group, partner with Jay Morrison, and I've been in finances my entire career. Every time I listen to him, I learn something new. So definitely want you guys to make sure you guys are following King Will. Go on his YouTube. He drops so much knowledge for free every single Friday, or FICO Fridays about credit. But we also would like to invite you to our afternoon class. If you're going to stick around, you can meet with one of our wealth education advisors. They'll be outside. If you're having problem purchasing the course, Queen Laini, she's in the pink outside. You guys can talk to her and she can help you get registered for that course. But at the Legacy Center, our biggest thing is offering guidance and support to you guys, right? We talked about gas. And I think that that's always the biggest thing that's missing from our people is the guidance, guidance, access, and support. Right? So if you don't have that guidance or the access, I feel like that's the reason that we've all been left in the dark with all these wealth building strategies that people like Will, I, and our team have learned over, just whatever 10 years, 15 years for me, 20, I don't know how many years King Will has been doing it. Long time, right? We spend a lot of time and a lot of money to learn these things, and we can keep this information to ourselves, but we are here. That's why we have this Legacy Center. That's why King Jay does so much educating, because we do this for you guys, and we want to help educate and help you guys build your legacy and build wealth for your family. So I also want to invite you guys to just check out our website. Because outside of all of the free education we do, we also have actual services to help you guys out. So we offer tax prep, life insurance, financial planning, wealth management, and you guys can go to legacycenter.com, get your free financial game plan, and we will help you build out that strategy, right? We're going to provide the guidance to you for free, and we call that free financial game plan. So you can go to legacycenter.com, or you can go to freefinancialgameplan.com to get your free game plan. We'll hop on a call with you, look over your goals. Like King Will was saying, we need to know what the end goal is so that we can give you a couple of routes to get there, right? We might take the first route that route may not work, but there are so many other strategies out there to get you to your goals. So we invite you guys, get your free financial game plan, talk to one of our wealth education experts. I also want to encourage everybody to check out LegacyCenterInsurance.com. You can get your free life insurance quote, and you can actually do a life insurance application directly on the website. We pay a lot of money for this technology so that we can give you access to all of the wealth building strategies that everybody in the country uses. So please take advantage. Please take advantage. But other than that, I just want to salute each and every one of you for being the CEOs of your family, for coming out today, spending the morning with us. And check out our calendar, because this is just the first of a whole list of Saturdays that we have packed out for you guys all the way throughout the summer right now. But every Saturday you can expect some kind of education from us at the Legacy Center live stream. You guys make sure that you're also tapped in LegacyCenter.com, get your free financial game plan. And if you're having any issues on the live stream, you can call one of our advisors at 833-3-LEGACY. We can get you taken care of and get you enrolled in the class for this afternoon. But that's it, guys. I'm Shaniqua Nicole. Please follow me on Instagram at Nick Nicole or Shaniqua Nicole on Facebook. And make sure you tap into the ecosystem. We appreciate you guys so much.